Well, what a delight to welcome back to Focus Today Frank Peretti. And of course, you have most likely read one of his most popular books, This Present Darkness or Piercing the Darkness, or his latest one that was released just this past March 6th, Illusion. And we had him on the air about that book a few weeks ago, and we are so delighted to have him back. There's a picture of it right there, Illusion. And it was released March 6th, which, by the way, Frank, that was my birthday. So it's a good day for you to release a book.
Well, happy birthday, sir. Yes, yeah, two wonderful birthdays.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Well, how's it going? How's the book going?
Well, I don't know how it's going. I know that people like it. I'm getting real good reviews. 4.5 stars on Amazon, 4.5 stars on Barnes and Noble, and my Facebook page. Of course, those are all my friends, but they speak very highly of it. So I guess it's doing all right. I think it's a wonderful book.
Well, you shared with us last time a brief synopsis of the book, and I don't want you to give it all away, but there is a little bit of a tweak to it, and that is that you got the inspiration of this book from you and your wife's relationship.
All right. Yeah, it's a testament. Oh, it's just a portrait, of a beautiful marriage that's lasted for 40 years. Barb and I are going on 40 years.
Wow.
And so that's what I was thinking about at the time. Boy, if I can inspire other folks. I got a Facebook message from a guy he's been married to his wife for 31 years. And he says, reading your book helped me to appreciate my wife all the more. And wow, now that's...
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
My wife and I, by the way, my wife and I will celebrate our 44th this year. In a row. 44 in a row.
44 in a row. Well, bless to you, sir.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Maybe I need to write a book. I don't know. Well, it's a delight to have you with us. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, but I would like to take some time today and see if I can kind of reach down into your heart and squeeze a little bit, because your life's journey is really an interesting one, and few would probably know that you kind of had a bumpy start to life. Do you mind sharing some of that with us?
Oh, well, the bumpy start was I had cystic hygroma. I was basically born with it. It's a birth defect, and that involves a really bad malfunction and malformation of the lymph glands in the neck and also in the tongue. And so I had a sizable tumor on the side of my neck here, and then also I had a tongue that was greatly, just engorged and stuck way out of my mouth. It was bleeding and. It was really grotesque, and I was in that condition. I had several surgeries. I was in that condition, up to 2nd or 3rd grade.
And obviously that got you some bullying a little bit, I guess, in school, huh?
Oh, I wasn't. Maybe 1st or 2nd. The thing is, even after the surgeries, that my tongue was still deformed and stuck out of my mouth, and I spoke with my tongue out of my mouth till all through grade school. And, well, it's not just the physical deformity, it's also the fact that I was small because of my illness and hospitalization. And also, of course, when you're grotesque and ugly, it makes you shy, it makes you timid, it makes you a withdrawing kind of child. And that's just like putting a target on your chest for kids to bully you.
How bad was your bullying experience?
Oh, say again, please.
How bad was your bullying experience?
Oh, well, compared to what kids go through today, it wasn't really that bad, but it was relentless. The basic message: you're ugly, you're stupid, no one likes you, that kind of thing. And the fact that, once the die is cast, once you are kind of conditioned, afraid, and conditioned to be withdrawing and you're uncertain of yourself, then that continues to advertise kids clear up junior high and into high school. And then the bullying gets really tough, because then the hormones are going and all the guys want to show how macho they are by beating up on the littler kids. Now that shows how macho you are, doesn't it? You're so strong. You find the smallest, most helpless kid to beat up on, and that makes you a man. That's it.
Did that happen to you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I wrote a book about it, and I've talked about it. And bullying is still a big, big, big problem now, and it says a lot about human nature and our sinful nature, I think, too. But it has to be dealt with.
So, as a young boy growing up with all of this, how did it affect you? I mean, how did you find your way in life when your atmosphere said, you know, you're abnormal, you're not one of us?
Well, one thing that helps is when you have a mom and a dad
Mm-hmm.
who are always there and encourage you.
Wow.
And for me, that's when I was home, I was normal. When I was home, I mean, I was telling stories and I was writing stories, and mom and dad were always encouraging me. And it didn't matter what I was into, dad was always there to help me out. You know, I had the most craziest projects out in the backyard. I was going to build a blimp. We were going to build an airplane. I remember I was going to build a big scale model of the Titanic. You know, I had all these projects going, and you know, my dad never said, "Son, you can't do that. It'll never work. Why are you wasting your?" No, he never said anything like that. All he ever said was, "Well, just be sure you put the tools away when you're done." So they were really good at encouraging me that way.
That's wonderful. When did you discover your writing? I mean, when did you really start?
You know, I was writing stories when I was a kid. During that time,
Really?
yeah. As a matter of fact, you know, look at this. This is interesting. Is I was withdrawing from the world outside. Well, call this maladjustment, but
Yeah.
I'd stay in my room and I would create stories and characters. I'd draw comics and I used my mom's typewriter to type and write stories. And a lot of us living in my own world a lot. Now, maybe I would have done that anyway, but I just think back on that, how maybe the fact that I was kind of not making it very well in the outside world brought me to an inside kind of world, and I was creating my own world in there. And maybe that's how the Lord was first, you know, bringing the writer out of me. But I've always been a storyteller.
So, where was the Lord in all of this? Where were you in your walk with Christ during this time?
Oh, I knew him. Yeah. I was saved when I was real little. I grew up in a Christian home. So it's like I tell people, the last time I got saved, I think I was 11. You know, I used to get saved every week. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you know, there was never any question in my mind. Well, amen. I want to get saved.
Yeah.
So my uncle sat me down. I think I was about 11. He said, "Frank, it's okay. You're in."
You're in, yeah. Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
you know, I really did cry out to the Lord a lot when I was a kid. Why did you make me this way? Why can't I be bigger or stronger, not have all this stuff going on? How come I can't throw a football like the other boys? And how come I can't run as fast? And especially boys as they're growing up, it's just, they have this compulsion, this hormonal, psychological compulsion to prove their manhood.
Right.
Which means they have to beat up anybody that's strong. You know, who's the toughest kid on the playground?
Yeah.
And it's really tough when you're the last one to get picked, you know, when they're picking sides for baseball, always the last to get picked. And on it goes.
Yeah.
This isn't a pity party here, you know. That's just the way it was. And boy, well, there are kids going through that now, and that's why I'm talking about.
Well, we've done some shows, Frank, on bullying, and I think we are shocked to find out it's now rampant. It's almost epidemic.
Which is really shocking to me because I thought we knew better than that.
Yeah.
'Cause it wasn't that long ago. There were so many programs in the schools about stopping bullying, and I saw posters in the halls and all of this business. But well, I think you and I both know where this is coming from.
Yeah.
It's the collapse of the home, the abandonment of absolute right and wrong. One thing that's very telling is the subtle message that we're getting that every human being, really, if there is no God, if we don't have an ongoing personal knowledge or relationship that there is a God who cares about us, then we lose our intrinsic value. And then you replace that with, say, an evolutionist idea that it's the strongest who survive, survival of the fittest. And this, of course, is reinforced constantly through the media and through films, stories. And So you have a lot of these factors coming through that's causing this. We're becoming far more less human than we used to be.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if you write again on this subject because it's huge, and I think a lot of people are looking for ways to combat it. But you know what's so interesting about the whole subject of bullying, and I'm sure you know that, it just takes somebody to step up and say, stop it.
Yeah, and we're almost getting into an area of what I would call brute force. Bullying is about brute force. It's about one person having strength over another.
Mm-hmm.
Often the only way to really stop the bullying, I suppose in some cases you can appeal to some scheme of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And now, how would you like to be treated that way? And, what's wrong to bully? And let's talk about it. But in a lot of cases, I found in my experiences growing up that it was about brute force. And until brute force is applied from above, such as authority,
Mm-hmm.
the teacher, go to the principal, go to the police if you have to, cry for help. You're being violated. And I usually tell people, hey, if a burglar is breaking into your home, you're not about to, talk to the burglar and say, well, you really shouldn't be doing this. The burglar is breaking into your home because he has no conscience.
Yeah.
And the bully picks on you because he or she has no conscience. And sometimes the best way to get the result that you really, really need, parents have to get involved, teachers, any authority figure, and you need to be absolutely definite about this. This is not going to happen. You are going to take responsibility for your actions, and you are going to stop this, or we'll have you arrested.
Yeah. A big issue. I'm going to take a break here, Frank. We come back because you come out of those experiences as a young boy. Of course, you went on to high school and college. I see here where you tried to being a musician. You tried being a carpenter. You tried working in a ski factory. You even tried being a pastor. And you're a part-time pilot. Nobody would believe your resume, Frank.
Somebody asked me, what are you doing in your spare time?
Yeah. Let me take a quick break. We'll be back. And our special guest today, what a delight to have back with us today, author Frank Peretti. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with Frank Peretti, and what a delight to have him. He's sharing with us some things you probably will never hear, and getting into his life, his personal life. And Frank, I just want to say thank you for your transparency. I think you're ministering to more than you perhaps could ever imagine. Because when we read your books, we just think, well, here's a very talented guy. He's had a cakewalk of a life. He writes books, millions of them are sold overnight. Few know that there's a real price and a pain behind all of this. But let's come back to the fact that now that you're going into high school, you're going into college. How did you carry these scars on your heart? How did you carry them forward during those formidable years?
Well, during my formidable years, or during my formative years?
Yeah.
Were they formative or formative? Well, they were both. They were
yeah, there we go.
Formative.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. One real key factor, I think, which was really cool, was in high school. I was a junior in high school, and I was being picked on clear up to that point.
Wow.
But here's two things that happened, very important. Number one, I came into gym class one day, and gym class, that's the
worst
cauldron.
Yeah.
That's the cauldron of abuse. Because in gym class, all the guys, are trying to compete and show how macho and athletic they are and everything. And anyway, I was going through some really tough abuse there, and it was really getting personal. I won't go into it, but anyway, I was feeling, and the gym teacher, this is important, the gym teacher actually turned to me and said, how are you? You doing okay? And I was afraid to say anything. I was afraid of him. He was a big, gruff guy. All he did was yell at us. But that stuck with me. And I finally said, well, he asked. So during my study hall that day, I started writing a letter, and I just wrote. I remember I wrote page after page after page, And I told him everything. That's what was going on then, but what went the years before that, and the year before that, and the year before that.
Wow.
And anyway, the next time I came to gym class, he took me aside and he said, "Hey, Peretti," and he called the counselor there, at the office. He said, "You want to see him now?" So he gave me a pass, and I went down. I talked to the counselor, and I got out of gym class where all the abuse was happening. And now the point there is I said something.
Yeah.
And number two, somebody asked. Grown-ups and teachers, those who are responsible for children's safety and well-being, you must ask. Because there's a snitching rule in place, always. It is, you're not supposed to snitch. You're in a failing situation because, number one, you're getting picked on, and number two, you can't tell anybody.
Wow.
Because if you tell anybody, you'll get picked on all the more. So it's important for adults to ask. And then secondly, I spoke up because I was asked. And I actually went to authority and I appealed to authority for help. So that's what got me out of that situation. And right about the same time that happened, I actually got started. Some friends of mine, they knew I was a nut and I was crazy and that I was, an unusual kind of guy. They said, "You should get into drama class." And so I got into drama class, and I found out I wasn't the only weird kid in school, Drama and English, everybody has that certain something that they are really good at.
Wow.
All you got to do is find it. And for me, it was drama. It was expressing. It was writing and doing the stories. And I found my niche, and I found some wonderful, supportive friends, and we were all crazy together. So that really turned it around, and that followed me the rest of the time. I actually started enjoying being Frank Peretti because there was a place for me on this planet. I wasn't the weirdo.
What's so interesting about that is your own writing was the beginning of your own healing.
Yeah, to a great extent, because I was pushing into my 30s and still had not really connected with what God really had put in my heart to do. And so, oh man, it was tough because you feel like a failure. And I was married and just really lamenting that I couldn't be a better man for my wife and trying to find my way. It was in God's timing, but it felt so good to finally have someone say, "Frank, you've written a good book and we'd like to publish it."
Wow.
How I longed for that day,
Wow.
Put a lot of work in there and well, of course, everybody's wondering, well, what's Frank going to do with himself? When are you going to get his act together? He's done this, he's done that, he's done these other things. And now he's writing a book as if anything's going to come of that.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. How did you enjoy pastoring, or did you?
Yes. Well, I look back on those years, and I was looking through my old sermon notes and stuff. The Lord really, I guess I learned to understand and know what the Lord's anointing is.
Wow.
For preaching, for ministering the word. Those are some really good and effective times and very educational. But after 5 years, I did come to the conclusion I wasn't cut out to be a pastor. So I got that settled, I was real good at preaching and teaching and all that. But boy, when it comes to pastoring and being a shepherd over all these sheep, that wasn't quite my calling. You have to really have a heart for taking care of people and all of their myriad problems and running a church. And that wasn't my cup of tea. I'm just a creative storytelling kind of guy.
Well, it's been noted that you kind of are the founding father of Christian fiction. I don't know if you accept that title, but a lot of people say since those books, your beginning books, Piercing the Darkness and such, they just kind of skyrocketed the whole topic of Christian fiction, and you kind of the guy that opened the door.
Well, I think that's what happened. Yeah, I got to be careful. I don't know. The father of Christian fiction.
Well, it might make a good play title.
Well, it did turn the business around, I guess. when I was starting out and trying to get into it, Christian fiction was just, it was, nobody took it seriously. The publishers didn't take it seriously. And so I think it did prove out that there were a lot of very talented fiction writers who just couldn't get a chance because no one thought fiction was worthwhile. And then when the Darkness books came out, and bam, millions of copies being sold, and Crossway Books finally getting all their bills paid and building a new building. And I mean, it was, whoa! And so now the other publishers started saying, is there another fiction out there? So, hey, there were some really big name nonfiction writers that tried their hand at fiction. There was like Pat Robertson and Chuck Colson and Larry Paquette. There's the three guys I remember that they were nonfiction writers, but they tried fictions. Ooh, that was interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Do you have a fascination with monsters?
I used to.
Really?
When I was a kid. I'm not that fascinated with them now, but I kind of laugh at it. Yeah, some of those old movies like, those old 50s movies, especially the old radioactivity movies where there's a bomb goes off or there's radioactivity and it makes giant ants, giant grasshoppers, giant termites. I mean, everything became giant. And so we had a whole rash of those movies. Frankenstein was a classic I liked. But I had models of monsters in my room when I was in high school. I had the Wolf Man, the Mummy, and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Dracula and all those guys. I think there was probably some identification there. I had a little bit of self-concept that I was a monster too.
Well, you kind of act like one, don't you? You play one on TV, don't you?
I'm not a monster, but I play one on TV.
Frank, I want to come back. You just said a few moments ago while pastoring, you noticed the need for the anointing when you preached. How about the need for the anointing when you write? I mean, how do you pray for inspiration to do what you do?
Well, I don't really pray. I just talk to God the whole time. It's the Lord and I get together every day when I write, and I just trust Him to bring the ideas. Well, I'm going through that process right now. I'm thinking and exploring and praying about the next book, and I'm really listening for what God is saying to me, because I try to write from wherever I am in the Lord at the time, what He's saying to me, and so you can almost trace where Frank Peretti was in his spiritual walk by just looking at the books I've written. Because one of them speaks about whatever I was working on at the time. Well, the Illusion was about marriage. I was reflecting on my 40 years of marriage to Barb and what that means and how that's a type, a symbol of our longing to be with our bridegroom, who is Jesus. And so that's what gave it its depth. And well, now I'm examining, the church. I'm really, really curious about where the church has been and where it is now and where it's going and all the incredible changes going on. And
are you stockpiling some ideas on that?
Yeah. I'm reading books and just talking. And Barb and I have both been working on this, just trying to discern. Now, see, this is where the Lord really comes in, because you pray and seek and say, well, what's going on here? Help us to see what's really going on and how you see things. And I have to get to the point where I've got something figured out, and then I can put it into a book.
Do you have a bucket list?
Oh, maybe I should. The bucket being the things you want to do before you die. Well, no, I don't. Maybe I ought to. I'm really happy with my life, though.
Good. Do you get any inspiration when you fly?
Well, that's a different inspiration. I very seldom get inspiration from books when I fly, but I sure get inspired.
Yeah. No, I asked that as a fellow pilot because there's just something about that freedom up there that's hard to describe sometimes.
Yeah, it's breaking loose the bonds of whatever that poem is, and you're so up there and above everything, and it's feeling like a bird. Well, you have to be a pilot to understand, I guess.
I want to come back to, do you think there is a continued future for fiction, Christian fiction?
Oh, most certainly. Yeah, there is. But now, see, this raises some other questions. Where is Christian fiction going to go?
Yeah.
Because it's been interesting to me how Christian fiction at large and I seem to be kind of diverging a little bit, because we're seeing more and more of the dark, edgy, vampire, violent, weird stuff in Christian fiction, as if there's some kind of a hunger for that. And maybe it's my age or my hormones or lack thereof. I'm starting to get a little more contemplative, deeper things in life, and that goes into my fiction now. And so that's going to be a good question to see where it's going to go. And I think it'll still be healthy, but I'm wondering, which.
Let me ask you this in closing, coming back to your interest in where the church is and where it's going. What would you describe the state of the American church today? America is so upside down in so many ways, and I don't know. Is it because we, the church, haven't been the church, or I mean, how are you kind of trying to balance the mess and the church's role?
Well, I think one thing I'm grappling with right now is I wonder, I really wonder, after all these generations, if we are really doing church right after the biblical pattern, because we have fallen into this. We live in a Western industrialized culture,
Right.
where we really start thinking in terms of productivity, the value of time, division of labor, producing numbers and accomplishing tasks. And it's interesting how our churches, well, we build four walls, we get a staff, we get a budget, we get a program. It actually starts running like a factory, like a
Yeah.
business.
Right.
And we're very task oriented. It's the men's fellowship, the women's missionary council, the youth group. Who's going to run this? Who's going to drive the buses? Who's going to clean the church? Blah, blah, blah. Whoa, wait a minute. Now, are we losing out on what we really should be doing? Where is the person in this?
I'd like to get you back for a half hour just on that topic, because I think it's that important, and I hope you are stockpiling some notes, that you are led of the Lord to write something in that area. By the way, I'm enjoying your log home in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's up the loft.
You're in the loft, huh? Good. Hey, Frank, thanks. What a delight to have you. You're a hoot, and you're anointed. Whether you believe it or not, you really are. And we thank God for you and your life and your writings and your transparency today. I think you ministered to far more people than you possibly realized.
Well, I certainly hope so. That'd be really cool.
All right. Thank you. God bless you, pal. See you next time.
Okay.